I've said it before. Ironically, what began as a secret society on the island where my own grandparents and great-grandparents immigrated from has become a part of nearly every aspect of American culture. From movies like Godfather and Goodfellas to iconic television programs such as The Sopranos and Wise Guy, to American history, the Kennedy assassination, the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. No aspect of American popular culture and history is complete without a discussion of the life. And I want to introduce you to a man who has lived that life. The author of the book, The Life, Larry Mazza. Larry, how are you?
I'm great, Matt.
Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me back. It's
Now,
always a pleasure.
We're here to do another sit-down conversation for a combat sports channel, and this is for Dan Theodore, the Wolfman's channel, the Catch Jitsu channel, which is very popular for fighting techniques and is premiering videos with interviews from musicians, entertainers, of course, MMA fighters, and this is part of that series, and this is one of the premiere videos. So I want you to talk about your upbringing as a youngster and martial arts, which is integral to that.
Yes. As a young man, young boy, my father put me in the first karate school. I was about 12 years old. It was very traditional style, which could get boring at times when you're learning all those different katas and things like that. But soon after that, about 14 years old, I switched over to kickboxing, and I was in a school that was run by a 4-time champ named Louis Neglia. I was with him for about 3 years. I also got into boxing with actually a Colombo wise guy named Angelo Defendis. I was young back then. I probably shouldn't say Colombo guy. I believe he was, but I was a kid. He was one of the families because we knew he was a made guy. And I kept it up in my life. I became an instructor. Even when I later on in life did time, I trained with a lot of guys, some Golden Glove boxes. Actually trained hard with a guy named Isaac Napa, who won a gold medal. Black dude, great guy. Wound up getting framed for a rape. This goes way back because there was white, black involved, crazy stuff. And he got a big sentence for that, but we, good guy, we trained a lot. And when I came home back to Florida, I caught back up with guys that I was with from when I used to come back and forth to Florida. Donnie Hare, champion kickboxer. Don the Dragon Wilson.
Yeah.
He opened up 3 of my clubs for me.
Awesome.
So, maybe have him on the show sometime.
Yeah,
he's
great to have Don Wilson.
Don is,
absolutely.
He's big. He's so big. He's still filming movies and still doing seminars and things like that. So, but no, I did. I'm going to say too, I semi-retired almost 10 years now. I was still instructing up to about 52. I'm 60 now, and I firmly believe if you can't lead a person where you can go, somebody else got to take over. It's a young man's sport, young man's game. Sparring, I don't do anymore. I work the bags. I still jump rope. I run a lot, do some weights. But
you're in great shape.
Well, I appreciate that, and we, my wife and I both work hard on staying in good shape. But it's like I said, it's a young man's game. I have no delusions. I'm not looking to become a champion. I never really did. I did it for self-defense, self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Then I enjoyed the lifestyle. I enjoyed the training. There's no better physical condition person than a fighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bottom line. So.
And you have a great gym here.
Thank you.
In the Cocoa Beach area. We toured it. It's fantastic gym, and it's a full weight gym. They have that outside training area.
Yeah.
Tons of mat space.
Yep. Well, we got the dojo inside.
The dojo, yeah, it's fantastic.
Weights, machines. Yeah, everything a big giant gym has, and mine is.
It's a big gym.
It's big.
Yeah,
it's not like the LA Fitness is, but it's a big gym. It's probably 9,000 square feet or 8,000 square feet, the whole thing. So, and not including the yard. And that yard, we do a lot during the winter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you talked about the martial arts lifestyle, the fighting lifestyle. You met a beautiful, seductive woman when you were still a teenager that brought you into another lifestyle. Yeah. Talk a little bit about her.
Well, yeah, I was in all sports. I was in high school. I played every sport there is. Not even get into even hockey. Not on a serious level hockey, but basketball, baseball, football, martial arts, and I was doing all that. And plus, I was working a couple of jobs. And on one of those jobs, I was working in a supermarket, and one of my jobs was to deliver groceries to houses where they ordered big orders, like 3 or 4 box loads. And at one of those houses, I met this older woman named Linda, and we wound up, an attraction led to a mutual seduction. Eventually, we were lovers, and that went on for almost 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Linda was a married woman, and because of the home she lived in, you knew that her husband was pretty well off. You thought maybe he was.
Well, you could see she was certainly not wanting for anything. The house was beautiful. Yeah. She had a nice Cadillac. She always dressed well, beautiful jewelry. And early on, I thought the husband was a rich businessman that had to travel, or a doctor with the crazy hours. But as we got closer and closer, she wanted her husband, who she told me was an influential man, still having no idea. And he could do things for you. I'd like you to meet him. To get into the details of that, I think you could visualize how I felt at that age, meeting the husband of the guy.
Kind of wacky to even bring up. Right?
But as time went on, and I've told the story so many times, it almost gets repetitious. But I started feeling, once I met him,
you knew right away this wasn't a.
I knew, yes, yeah, absolutely. The way he carried himself, the way he dressed, the way other men around him were super respectful. When I was working for one of the businesses he put me in charge of, if I went into a store and didn't get the account, either Carmine or Johnny went the next day, and he says, go back there. I would go back. The guy couldn't wait to give me the account. So I knew there was more than just influence, and I wasn't a dummy, although I was never in that life. I knew about it. I had an uncle that was with the Colombo family for many years, my uncle Albert. You met my cousin Joey last time.
Joey.
And it's his father.
We'll talk about Albert a little bit later on.
So,
But at that time, right, so you meet her husband, and you found out that he had some other women, not so much on the side. He was also married.
Well, along the way, we're fast forwarding a little bit. I got so close to him that I started feeling guilty. Yeah. Now that he was helping me, and so ultimately they had a discussion somewhere, and they agreed that it was okay. I don't know all the details to that. Yeah. Okay. A lot of people have different opinions on why he allowed it. Why it was okay. But as later on came, I found out he had 2 other wives, one in Vegas, and one in South Jersey.
And he was considerably older than Linda. Linda
he was about 20 years older
than
her, and she was about 13 years older than me, give or take.
So you were almost kind of doing a service in a sense.
I hate to use that word, but maybe it just made life easier for him and everybody, whatever. But we got real close. Yeah. The father and I got very close. We were true friends. I was fiercely loyal to him throughout, which got me closer with his whole family. Yeah. I was his godfather to one of his sons. I'm still friends with Greg Jr. today, and
we really need to, because this is a combat sports channel. People are talking about have no idea who the husband is that we're talking about.
Well, that's true.
And he was actually, you could tell who he was.
Yeah, his name's Greg Scarpa, and his nickname was the Grim Reaper. He was a heavyweight, very feared gangster, mob guy, made man, whatever you want to call it. In the Colombo family, which is one of the 5 crime families in New York. And there weren't many guys, if any, that had more respect and fear than he got. So you can understand how when I found all of this out, I started getting paranoid. But ultimately, he had this discussion with me when we were alone. We went to the club together one day. Well, we went to the club every day together. We opened up. And one day he started talking about the situation. You know, I know you and Linda are close. I love what you do for her, blah, blah, blah. And he made it clear that he thought I was old enough and, well, mature enough to accept all this. And he told me he knew about me and Linda. So, I mean, my heart was beating, but
you may have thought you weren't going to make it out of that.
I was, you know, while he was bringing it on, I was concerned, very concerned. But I also, maybe it was that I truly loved her, and I believed she truly loved me, that I said, okay, this is my moment of truth.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? So I answered him, I says, Greg, you know, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. You know, I don't think you're an idiot, but only an idiot wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
And he laughed. He was very, you know.
Unbelievable.
He didn't, you know, he no mad, nothing. And we walked outside together, and from that moment on, we had a bond that just got stronger and stronger.
You know, we should tell people, too, that that's not only are you talking about a married man, you know, with his wife, but also that was one of the major rules in that life.
Yeah, when we went outside, that's one of the first things.
Was not to sleep with it.
The first thing he told me after we put it out in the open was that if anybody outside of the three of us find out about this, you and I will be killed. That's what he said.
Yeah.
You and I will be killed. So obviously I wasn't going to tell anybody. I know he wouldn't. And it was a secret. You know, what's funny is there was one other person that knew, because my partner Jimmy worked with me at Dan's supermarket where I met her. He became my right-hand man over the years, and you know, my partner and my brother. So then he met Greg. So it was, you know, he's not, you put it together. And it was just one of those unspoken things. It happened. You know, Jimmy probably really didn't know it was still going on.
Now, you had brought up something in the past that John Gotti actually violated that rule as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, as the years went on, I learned that all those rules were there to be broken. Very, very, you know, you talk about sleeping with the wife. Right there, perfect example. Sammy the Bull told me about John Gotti, that he was sleeping with Bella Croce's daughter, who was married. John was married. I think they had a kid together, if I remember this conversation right.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not good. You're not supposed to kill a boss to take over the family. They did that. Vic Arena tried to do it, or tried to oust the boss, Junior Persico, later on. You're not supposed to sell drugs. I mean, a lot of guys were selling, and the bosses were allowing it because they were getting money. You know, so they tell you can't, to put that facade out. And, you know, as you get older and you're around long enough, you get numb to it because, you know, and then cooperating with the government or talking to law enforcement. To really fast forward, my boss, all the things I went through with him, how loyal I was to him. We went through a war together. I got made during the war because of what I did during the war, and my partner Jimmy.
Now, the war you're talking about, we should explain again to the folks that are listening. The Colombo family had so much infighting over the years, and you were involved in the last
Colombo war.
The Colombo War, and there's a number of stories surrounding that, and one of those stories is relates to the Nicky Black. The hit on Nicky Black.
Well, I'll get to that. First, I want to touch on what you said about the Colombo family. There's been friction in the family for many, many years because the boss of the family, Junior Persico, was in and out of prison a lot. And when he had longer stretches, everybody thought he should have stepped down and put somebody else in. He never did. So he retained control of the family for probably longer than any other boss ever. You know? And finally, this one, he gets a life sentence. And he still won't step down. Now, the rule says He doesn't have to. He's the boss until he dies, steps down, or gets voted out unanimously by all the captains. That's not going to happen because half of his relatives are captains. So it's never going to happen. And he didn't want to step down. So Vic Arena, the one he appointed as acting boss on his behalf while he was away, decides he wants to take over the family. I don't think he made that decision himself. I know for a fact he didn't, because other guys that had gripes from the past with Junior Persico were using this as an excuse, okay? And John Gotti had his motivation. He wanted to be the capo de tutti capi. He wanted to be the boss of all bosses. And while Junior was alive and the Chin was alive, he was never going to have that. So if Vic, he backed Vic, and if Vic wins the war, Vic's underboss is Joey Scopo. They were going to kill Vic, have Joey Scopo be elevated. John and Joey grew up together in the streets. They're best friends. Now you got 2 votes on the commission. So, you know, everybody, it's treachery. It's backstabbing, and like I said, the rules mean nothing. Because you go to the very end, we're talking about the people making deals. They do it in all different ways. There's guys that cop out very weakly where they hurt their co-defendants. There's guys that hit the witness protection program and decide to just do it, you know. There's guys that, and it just happened to Sammy, and it happened to me to an extent, where your co-defendants are throwing all the weight onto you. They're throwing all the damage. Like my boss, Alley Boy, after he told me he knew about Greg for 30 years, for 20 years, and Greg was governor and foreman for 30 years, I saw paperwork where he was leaving a closing summation for his attorney. I'm going to be sitting at the table with him. And it says that Greg and his guys, that's me and Jimmy, were totally responsible for the war. That's not a rat.
Throwing me under the bus.
There's so many, you know.
There's so many ways. It's interesting, and I want to get back to the Colombo War aspect. But something we talked about in the last time we had one of these interviews was a quote that I was told from Phil Baroni Sr., who was a Gold Star detective that had gotten involved in that life. And he said, if you want to be a gangster, get a badge. And, you know, I know it's a rule, and this is kind of a question. I know it's a rule in Cosa Nostra not to talk, but do you think that it's smarter?
Well, in hindsight, absolutely, because a lot of guys are doing it anyway. That's one thing. Like when I talk about Greg, I say a lot of things about how he was a tough guy, and nobody can ever deny that. Ruthless, fearless, you name it. At the end of the day, he did have the badge. Certainly helps. But I think somewhere in the recesses of my mind, what bothers me more than anything is that he confided everything with me. Confided in me and everything. There's nothing he didn't tell me. There's nothing we didn't do together. And he never even gave me an inkling that that's the way to go.
Exactly.
Now, it sounds, I guess, double-edged, because then I would probably do the same thing. But if you're teaching me to life, and that's the way to survive, how'd you leave that out?
It's interesting, you know, because you guys had already confided in breaking one rule that could have gotten you both killed, right? So you would think if he was a friend, I know he's your your boss, but a friend, you know, he might confide in you in that.
He didn't confide in his own son Gregory. So he actually threw us all under the bus at the end. He tried to save somebody else. He could have put in some better words for myself and Jimmy and his son Gregory.
Let me tell you people something. If you read this book, The Life, this is a fantastic book. One of the main things that I took away from this book was that Greg Scarpa, the Grim Reaper, was very, very selfish. Now, would you agree with that?
Egotistical, selfish, greedy, cheap, loved money. But I mean, in some ways he was cheap. In some ways he was cheap because, you know,
using the cards,
using the credit cards, fake credit cards. But that wasn't out of cheap. That was just out of being brazen. I remember him saying the food tastes better when it's free.
When it's free, that's what I was thinking.
But I would say to him, $100 check, $150, you could risk a pinch.
Yeah.
But, and again, he knew he had no problem.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to get pinched.
Yeah.
So going back to when I talk about him, a lot of times, sometimes people will say to me, they still see that feeling.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can't just turn things on and off. You know, I did have years under him, the way he groomed me, educated me to the life. At the end, was very supportive of me moving up, because he was getting close to death. He was, you know, he's sick. He had got the AIDS, which is another story. It's all in the book. And he got into a bad blood transfusion.
Yeah.
And, you know, all the way to the very end. But then to find out that he was an informant for all those years, and really hurt so many people, being that, I could never forgive and forget. You know, I relive it. I always think about it. I try to move on past it, which I have. Sure. You know, I'm doing better now than ever in my life.
Doing fantastic.
Doing better than ever.
But you know what's kind of ironic? Like, a lot of people would think, with a lot of guys that are out of the life, that they'd be worried about people coming after them from Cosa Nostra. I think in your case, you'd probably be more concerned about the FBI.
Well, I've said that, and if you remember from the book, because, you know, when I decided to throw in the towel, okay, it wasn't because I couldn't take prison. I was doing fine. I was doing my time. I was fighting my case. I was working out every day. I was in the thing. I was already in cop-out mode. If I could have gotten a good deal, I would have took it. And I had Jimmy as a bargaining chip because he was still out. So they would have probably maybe given us some kind of reasonable deal. Sure. They never came under 25 years, but till the end. So anyway, when it all came out about Greg and Allie Boy, that he was going to do what he did and told me that he knew, it made it easier for me. Sure. So I started talking to my attorneys, and when they heard about the corruption, which they already knew about, but they knew I had information, that became my saving grace. Sure. And, you know, I had information on a secret frequency that we got so we could listen to the FBI as they were tailing us and our enemies. We had access to FBI badges and ID cards in case we wanted to go in on a place and grab one of our enemies like that. We had information on, got addresses of where our enemies were, and I knew all this. And I had a phone that we used to use, like the old portable phones. You don't see them anymore, obviously. But back then we didn't have cell phones. And we had this big phone, and he would call somebody. And he was getting information. So I had that phone number of who he was calling. So they knew I had a lot of information, but nobody knew exactly who it was.
Then he said it was a girlfriend or something.
He used to call it the girlfriend. My girlfriend gave me information. And he would laugh and he says, "Who is it? We got to know. What happens to you?" He says, "Someday I'll tell you." So that really is what saved my life. I mean, they, you know, after Greg and Carmine and a bunch of other guys were already cooperating and ready to testify, they really couldn't get anything new out of me. You know, I wound up getting 10 years. The guys that give them blockbuster stuff walk a lot sooner than that. You know, but I don't care about that. I mean, I did 10 years. I said I did it. I came out in great shape. I came out smarter than I went in, and I use that now for the rest of my life.
Now, kind of backtracking a little bit with your Uncle Alvin, during that last Colombo War, he was kind of semi-retired, but he was on the other side of the family, right? And did he tell you about Nicky Black?
Well, what happened? Well, two people, more than just my uncle. What happened was, my Uncle Albert was in his 80s. So he wasn't active in the war. He didn't want no part of it. He had no motives to move up, nothing. So he was under this guy, this captain named Nicky Black, grandson. And Nicky was going to be Vic Arena's consigliere. And Nicky chose Vic's side because when he got straightened out, when he got made, Junior made it with a clause that he could never rise above soldier. And there was a reason for that, because he did a favor to get this guy made because he was making a fortune with the Teamsters. And he bypassed other guys that deserved it more. So, including my Uncle Albie. So, anyway, he bolts to the other side. During the war, we're doing so much damage that they decided they had to break up our group or kill the three of us, get us. They were going to try to kill us anyway, but they weren't having any luck.
Yeah.
So Nicky tells my Uncle Albert that he's going to kill me. Their plan was to, if they could get me or Jimmy, just start weakening.
So he says he's going to kill you, his own nephew. He
No.
He tells
Albert
Albert that he's going to kill his own nephew. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, somebody else in that club heard it and told Carmine Sessa,
Okay.
who was our consigliere.
Yeah,
So it came from
yeah.
two different people.
Okay.
It wasn't only my uncle, but my uncle was the one I approached.
Yeah.
That night I went to his house and I asked him about it, and he says, yeah. He says, he's gunning for you, and he says, be careful. And I says, thank you, Uncle Albert. And I remember him telling me, it's one of the last things I said to my Uncle Albert until he came to visit me when I was in prison, was that blood is thicker than water.
Yeah.
Don't ever forget that. So I knew he wasn't going to ever give me a problem. He'd help me. So we made Nicky our #1 target after that. And within a few days, if that long, could have been the next day. I mean, we got lucky fast. We started looking for him, and boom, we found him. Found him on AU.
And didn't he think that you guys were cops?
Yeah, well, we think so because we were dressed up that way.
Yeah.
You know, we had baseball caps on.
Yeah.
We had coffee cups in the window. We had binoculars.
Yeah.
We wanted to look like we were surveilling. Even if innocent people walk by and look, they think you were cops, probably, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we found out later that they were tailing him all day. There was like 4, 5, 6 units
that were
tailing him
the whole time. And we should probably, I don't want to, but we should probably bring this up. There's an important aspect of that. Is by that point, Greg Scarpa, a Grim Reaper, had a horrible, debilitating disease.
Yeah, yes, that's I mentioned it before. Yeah, he got AIDS through a bad blood transfusion during operations.
Yeah.
And he was getting a little slower in the mind.
Yeah.
Dementia was starting to hit him, losing a lot of weight. It was real tough just to stay alive. I mean, he had to eat like 6, 7 times a day to try to keep weight on, all kinds of medications. But the guy hung on a long time. He hung on. I got to give him that. He hung on. So
he had the money to get access.
Yeah. Just like like Magic Johnson back in the day. Yeah, it's true. Because this is about the same time. It's early on, 87, 88, when he got it. And this, we're talking closer to 90, just about 90, 91, when all the mayhem really started. So anyway, this day we find him, and he was pulling up to meet a guy in front of his car service, which he did. Then he drove around the block. We followed him. He was heading almost back to where he came from, and he pulled over to meet another guy. And when he did, we rolled up alongside of him, and Greg had the rifle that he grown accustomed to. He liked it, but he hit the wrong clip
button,
and the bullets came out instead of the safety. So I believe he had one bullet in there. To this day, I'm not 100% sure, because I don't remember hearing 2 shots. Yeah. But it could have been muffled by mine, because I had the shotgun. And it was, And I got up very close to Nicky, and it was it's I don't know what's the word to use. It's
brutal.
Well, no, it's all of that, yes, but it was a historical. In New York in recent times, the only one that was probably more public or bigger than that was Paul Castellano. Because this was an eventual consigliere. Yeah. He was a powerhouse. Everybody knew him. Thousands of people were out there. Yeah. Literally, the whole neighborhood was there.
And I remember you talking about that, because Nicky Black was so big in New York at that time.
Especially
and
that
you guys
area.
Circle back?
Yeah.
And kids were talking about
Later
it?
on, we went and switched cars. I'll give you a little funny anecdote. We had to go babysit Jimmy's daughter. Yeah. So we get back to the house, and the wife has to go somewhere. It's going to take about an hour or so. So we sit down. I think it's like 6 o'clock. Yeah. Okay. We have a vodka. We're sipping a vodka. We're watching Seinfeld. And then when Margaret comes back, we jump back in the car. We're going to go shoot by Greg and maybe have a drink with him, go eat, whatever. Yeah. So as we're going, we take McDonald Avenue, and the scene was like out of a movie. Yeah. All around. Unbelievable. So I pull up and I open the window, and there's a bunch of teenagers hanging out on the corner. And I says, wow, what happened here? And they says, oh, big mob guy got killed. There's a mob war going on. And I told them, no kidding. I shut the window. I saw my face for a second, and I sort of got a little reality. After they said I was driving away, the surreal everything.
That was such a major hit. It just happened.
No, it was. It was. It was by far the biggest hit of the war.
Yeah.
It was one that shattered the arena side.
Sure.
A lot of dissension.
Sure.
Now they were, looking to patch it up, but they would never recognize Junior. That's the problem. So it never got put back together.
Yeah.
They kept saying, nope, anything else, whatever you want. And we couldn't give in. So
there's one other aspect, one other story from the Colombo War that you talked about, and there's so many great stories in this book. I want to tell everybody to buy The Life. I want to talk about that story. First, tell people where they can get the book.
Yeah, you could get it. I have a website. I wrote the book myself. I self-published. Did that for a reason, because I had a lot of high hopes for it, thinking it would make it to TV and movies. And this is something new that you haven't heard yet, Matt. I have a producer, and the producer is very close to launching his own network.
Yeah.
So I can't say much more about that, but so it will be on that network.
Awesome.
And De Niro told me it was very smart doing it this way because I don't have to buy the rights back from a company or anything like that.
And we're going to talk about De Niro.
I'm sorry, but you can get it. I want to finish. www.larrymazza-thelife.com.
Awesome. Yeah, check it out. And we're going to talk about Robert De Niro. We're going to talk about movies and such. I'm going to close with that. But before I do, towards the end of that last Colombo War, there was a very brutal hit on Larry Lampase.
Yeah, the war became a nightmare. All right, we talk about it now like it's just everyday stories, or but a guy once said to me on a podcast, it seems like you get desensitized. I thought that was a great word he used, and you do, and you forget what's really happening. But we're killing each other.
Yeah.
I could have been in Desert Storm shooting and getting killed around friends and stuff. Obviously, those are for more noble reasons, you would think. Who knows today with the government? Let's not. But but what happened was we were getting so frustrated that these guys wouldn't give in.
Yeah.
None of our guys, we shouldn't say none, but we were doing damage every day. Yeah. Somebody was getting shot, hurt, whatever, and they were getting frustrated. They couldn't get us. But I remember saying to Greg, and this is how far I came from a delivery boy to where I was now.
Yeah.
That I said, Greg, I think we got to massacre somebody.
Yeah.
I can't believe that came out of my mouth. But,
you were just thinking, because we got to get this over with.
I said, we got to make them think, we're not only going to shoot them, we're going to just,
Yeah.
So this one, it was a guy, Larry. We got information from the girlfriend, his exact time that he leaves the house. And it was between 3:15 and 3:30, or 3:30 and 3:45. Probably that, because we got there at 3:20. That I remember. So it was probably 3:30 to 3:45. We get there at 3:20. 10 minutes goes by, the most. The lights come on the caddy, like he said.
Yeah.
He backs out, and we were told that he would get out of the car.
Yeah.
Go lock the gate. And come back to the car.
3 a.m.
By the time he walked to the gate to lock it, we were already there. Okay. Greg had his rifle.
Yeah.
He shot him. He went down. The three of us got out of the car. Jimmy really wasn't supposed to, because he's the driver.
Yeah.
He's behind the wheel. But he was frustrated too. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd rather been home sleeping, So we walked up to him, and the three of us were standing over him. And he said something to the effect like, do it already.
Yeah, just get it over with.
Or what did I do is a possibility. I think he was saying, do it.
Yeah.
So we opened up on him, the three of us. And Jimmy finished him with one behind the ear. And he was done. But the reason I mention that, 2 of the hits, the Nicky Black hit and the Larry hit, Greg embellished them, okay, by saying things to others that didn't happen. Like, after he said, do it, Greg told Carmine Sessa that he said, what did I do? And Greg answered, this is what he said, which he didn't say, you picked the wrong side. Okay? That came back to be evidence of proof that there was two sides.
Yeah.
And it was never said.
Yeah.
And so it's out there now, whether it's too late or what. But
Greg was smart in a sinister way.
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely. But also, on the Nicky Black hit, he goes back and tells Carmine Sessa that he told him, this is for Carmine.
Yeah.
That was used as evidence.
Yeah.
He never said anything. Yeah. And Jimmy and I laugh about that to this day. He had to say that. It became evidence. He never said it.
Yeah.
And guys got hurt because of it. You know?
That's
so, yeah. It's, And then Carmine Sessa, at the tail end of the war, calls a meeting at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. Probably about 6 or 8 guys show up. They all get pinched on the steps. They get arrested by the FBI. They all go one direction. Carmine gets in another car and goes another direction. He set the whole thing up.
He set him up, yeah.
Yep. So that was the first chip to fall on the Colombo. Not the first one, but 2 lower level guys were cooperating.
Yeah.
I don't know how much damage they would have done in the long run, but paved the way for Carmine to come in. Now they had the consigliere.
Yeah.
So then they had Greg's story. Then they had 4 or 5 other main guys in the family talking. So just, it's a domino thing.
Yeah.
And then, so I like to, I say to myself, even in conversations with people, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Same thing here. If I can go back in time, or the world could go back in time, I would wish that they never allowed this hearsay. They never allowed a guy to come in and say he did this, he did this.
Exactly.
Go get the evidence, okay?
Exactly.
But they allowed this now.
Yeah.
So Carmine jumped at the opportunity. Joe Messina jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah.
These are bosses.
Yeah.
Gas Pipe jumped at the opportunity. Sammy the Bull jumped at the opportunity. They opened the door for this opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, what is a guy like me supposed to do? Just take a life sentence when my own boss, my second father, threw me under the bus?
Yeah.
It's hard to swallow.
That's why you
so you go make a deal. You go make a deal.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what else anybody could expect after hearing all that. And then finding out your boss knew about Greg all those years and they let him live.
Absolutely.
And to read the paperwork that
it's amazing
he
that
was,
the boss knew about it.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, here's the motives. First of all, he was able to kill without ever having to. So they hired him. They kill.
That's right.
Give the jobs to Greg. He never gets pinched.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, he was a heavyweight earner. And years later, I was trying to do research, whether it was my book or just curiosity and different things. And one of the attorneys on our case wound up marrying a co-defendant of mine.
Wow.
That's a friend of mine to this day. And I'll never forget, we knew he was bad. Now we knew for 30 years.
Yeah.
But when Ali told me he knew, he said 20 years. So we knew about him for 20 years. So I said to myself, there had to be a big event in that time frame. And what it was, there was a big IRS case coming against the upper echelon of the Colombo family. 8 guys or so, and Greg was one of them. So they go to court. The first day in court, they do their talking, whatever, and they put it for another, they put it off. They do all the time. So 3 weeks go by, give or take. They come to the second meeting. 7 of the defendants are there. Greg isn't. Okay. They call it off again. Month goes by. They come in again. 7 of the 8 defendants are there. Greg is not there. So they have to call it off again.
Yeah.
Another month goes by. They all come in again. 7 of them are there. Greg isn't. They throw the case out. What was this, a negotiation by Greg all this time? So I got to believe that Junior knew something was up, but he said, hey, he saved us. What do we care?
Oh, yeah.
So he sort of got a pass.
That's
then
right.
they used him. Then they used him to kill and make money. And he was a machine at both.
Yeah, that's why I was asking you originally. I know it's a rule that you're not supposed to, cooperate or work with the feds. But is it a smart rule? And I think about it this way. You compare it to like the cartels. Yeah. The cartels in Mexico and South America, a lot of them are the federales. They work together.
Yes.
So would it have been better with Cosa Nostra to work with?
Well,
because the politicians are corrupt. I mean, you have a great quote about politics. And how do you define politics?
Well, if you break the word up,
to
Greek, poly means many.
Yeah.
Ticks, blood-sucking insects.
Blood-sucking insects.
So that's what they are.
And you mentioned war. You mentioned the mob wars. Well, 5-star General Smedley Butler said famous quote about war. He said, "War is a racket." So I kind of think of the government as kind of an extension of
it is
corruption. So why not work with them?
Well, if you go back far enough, there's people that believe Hoover was somehow connected because he never confirmed that they were there. He sort of denied it. He never wanted to make them a target. As soon as he was out of there, as soon as it became a thing, they had these hearings, and eventually they were public enemy number one.
And it wasn't Kennedy, Robert Kennedy was a big problem.
And he stabbed them in the back because the Kennedys were put there by the mob guys. It's a lot of that. Greg had told me some things about the government, and in hindsight, I can see it now. But he's not the only one. Whitey Bulger, we know that story. There's others coming out here and there, and
that's why I said. What I was saying is, I know it's a rule, but is it a smart rule? Should I say, people can kind of think on their own. But I wanted to segue to something here, and I wanted to segue to entertainment and The Godfather, such an iconic movie, right? And you're part of the Colombo family, right? Joe Colombo, who was the namesake of the Colombo family, was very against the movie and the movie's release because, like I said in the open, it's supposed to be a secret society, and now iconic movies are these mob movies, and I like to ask you, you know what my favorites. I told you Bronx Tales. I thought it was such a great movie because it was so authentic, and you got. Not Armando Sante, but Chaz Palminteri's life, and he did the one-man show, and all of that. What are your favorite mob movies?
Well, that's up there. Bronx Tales is up at the top. I'll give you like my top 3. That's one of them. Yeah. I'm not going to say The Godfather because it was for so long, and to me, it's probably still the best movie. Great almost the best movie ever made, if not the best. It's arguable. I mean, I love Casablanca. I can watch that 100 times, but I loved Once Upon a Time in America. Yeah. It's a long movie. You got to watch it probably more than once to grasp all the things that are going on. I just love that. Bronx Tale, and probably I'll go off the movies and I'll go to The Sopranos. Because it was very, very realistic. Yeah. It was realistic because there's a lot of funny things that happen in our life.
Did they take something from your case?
Well, they took from a lot of different things. The one they took from my case was after the Nicky Black hit, the alleged corrupt agent banged his desk and said, "We're going to win this thing." Yeah. And that's what started his downfall because 2 of his own agents started questioning his morals and his ethics. And then obviously his criminal nature. Yeah. At that point it was like, I guess maybe in their eyes ethical. He was getting too close to his informant, whoever it was. I don't think they all knew, but when he banged the desk and said, "We're going to win this thing," there was an episode in The Sopranos because they were at war, Uncle Junior and Soprano, Tony and some others. Yeah. And I don't know if it was an FBI agent or, it was in The Sopranos that banged the desk and said, "We're going to win this thing." Same exact thing, So they, and it's funny because I had this discussion with a friend of mine who was a manager for entertainers, musicians, basically. But he sort of he's following my life. And he said sometimes it gets confusing to him whether it is art imitating life
or life imitating
art. And he goes back and forth. He says, is it art imitating life, imitating art? Or is it art imitating life, imitating art? You know, and you could go back and forth with that because guys are using lines from the movies.
They do,
They use them.
That's so
like,
true,
I mean, a guy in prison when we're fighting the case, and I remember Ali telling me he wanted us to all patch up with Wild Bill.
Yeah.
Now, Wild Bill was an enemy of ours. I mean, probably next to Vic Arena, the guy we wanted the most, and Joe Scarpa. And he wants us to make up with him. And I said, hell, why would we want to make up with him?
Yeah.
I mean, he caused a lot of this commotion here. And he says to me, you keep your friends close, you keep your enemies close.
Taking lines.
I walked away saying to myself, does he think I didn't see The Godfather? I mean, I know the lines. But other lines are used too, like make him an offer he can't refuse. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, so it's it's part of the whole. It's gotten watered down. It's gotten diluted. But I got to say this too. I have been blessed because of the book was so well received. I've had agents, police, the prosecutor of the corrupt agent, actors, you name it, old friends from the neighborhood, new friends, to tell me what a great book it is and how true to life it is, and because of that, the cops that were the task force cops that were working with the feds,
they told De Niro.
They now work. They now work for Robert De Niro. Security.
Yeah.
When he was doing The Irishman, they asked him who he. Is there somebody you can get to me that I can talk to and learn? They said me.
Brought you in as a
they brought me
advisor.
in. So I was in De Niro's. I was with him a half a dozen times in different, in his office, on set, whatever, and talking to him and working with him. Then I went and met him along with Martin Scorsese, at Marty Scorsese's house. Then I met Nick Pileggi, who was on board to write the screenplay. Also,
who would you have play you in the life? What actor?
Well, it's changed over the years because of the age and everything. There was a point where I thought...
But a young you, who would you have?
A young me?
You still look young. You still look you, but I'm saying, you in your 20s.
Let me give you an example. 10 years ago, I thought the Baldwin brothers would have been perfect.
Oh, yeah.
There's a young one who's
Billy Baldwin?
The youngest one 10 years ago was maybe in his 30s. He could have pulled it off.
Yeah.
Or, then a little later on, and ultimately it's Alec playing the older one.
Baldwin playing the older. Yeah,
but
you look younger than Alec Baldwin.
Well, I think I am younger than him.
Yeah.
But, so it changes.
Yeah.
It changes over the years.
That's a good one, though,
somebody, there's casting directors. They'll figure that out because they'll see the way I am, the way I act, and they'll find an actor that doesn't really have to act.
Yeah.
I've learned that. They'll get somebody. They're not going to get...
who would you have play Greg Scarpa?
Well, I'll tell you what. A guy, not a heavyweight, over-the-top, well-known actor named Rick Borgia.
Rick Borgia.
Played him in a documentary.
Okay.
And I gotta say, he was very good. He had a good presence. He had the ways. He was good. You know. If they went for a bigger name, I'm friends with Armando Sante. They may be able to say. I think at this stage, at his age, he's up there. He's not a young.
He played a great John Gotti in that HBO
thing. The best at all. I think he would fit in. I'm friends with Mike Madsen. I think he could play. He's a little bit taller but he's a little more. His voice isn't as deep as Greg's, but he's got a raspy voice. Yeah. But there's guys. I got my friend Craig DeFrancia, who was in the Green Book, and he was also my fellow hitman in The Irishman. Sure. Because I didn't get to that. I got a small
one
part.
more for you. Who would play Linda Scarpa?
Well, there was a time Marissa Tomei would have been good.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, and she fits the mold.
Yeah.
But again, as time goes by, I'm not too up on the younger actors and actresses today. It would have to be somebody else.
I got one for you that would play her. Mila Kunis? She's married to, God, I'm drawing a blank. She was just in a movie that I saw. Everybody can look her up. Mila Kunis.
Okay.
Oh, she's gorgeous. I think she would be a good one.
There was, I don't know if you remember Linda Fiorentino.
Yeah, I do,
I thought she would have been a perfect Linda. She had the same subtle ways. you know. But all that changes over the years. But like, you know, going back to what I said, it's gotten me in a lot of doors. It's my producer wants to put me as a host on a couple of shows that he's working on. Yeah. So that'll be good. We may have a role reversal down the road.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Where you're going to come in and sit with me, or
it'd be awesome.
And yeah,
if you want to do picks for fights too, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, that's one of them. We mentioned it was gambling shows a possibility because that's basically what I.
Larry, we're going a little long here, but it's well worth it. Great information and a great time. And I want to close with a question for you. Mm-hmm. If we could go back in time, you know, now you've got a great life now. Mm-hmm. If we could go back in time to that young Larry Mazza, John Jay College was going to be a fireman, and would you have cut it off with Linda, the affair, early in its infancy, and become a fireman, or would you have led the life that you've led?
Well, you know, it would be easy to say, or probably a cop-out to say, I would have taken the fire department test. Because I can't say, then it would be saying that it wasn't a true affair with her, and it was.
Yeah.
There were feelings.
You were truly in love. This was a love affair.
So, that love affair took me where it took me.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, things went terribly wrong for all of us. The kids, the families, everybody. Friends of ours, you know. So now I did my time. I come home, and different doors have opened.
Sure.
Okay. If it wasn't for me getting in that life, I wouldn't have my son today.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I met the girl, my first wife.
You wouldn't have all of the friends you had.
I met her through the life, and then because she was a haircut above the club, and I have a son, so I won't have him. And I wouldn't have Kelly in my life now.
Yeah.
Because all of these things led me to where I am now. So really, I do nothing different except maybe try to talk people out of the murders. I've always felt that way. I thought it got too easy to kill. I still feel that way. And it sounds like up in New York, they've changed that.
Here's a crazy question for you. I said it was last question, but here's a crazy question. Is there any point that you could have gotten away from Greg and not gotten wrapped up in the case? I know you were.
Not with the way
you've been straightened out and everything, but
I was.
There was no way.
Forget that. That came before that. I was brought in by him. I met so many heavyweights, so many higher ups in the family. I was known as his best friend, his closest, his right-hand man, and I was fiercely loyal to him. Jimmy was fiercely loyal to both of us. Yeah. And, you know, he didn't want anybody else around him. So I had that sense of loyalty.
Sure.
There's an ethic and integrity to being true to your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was, because, you know, everybody in the family isn't your friend, just like any other big organization. The friends was him, his son, and that's what made me and Greg Jr. so close, because of how close I was to Big Greg.
Sure.
And you may be doing an interview with Greg Jr. someday.
That'd be great.
Yeah, because he's home now, thank God.
And he hasn't done any interviews.
Well, you know, he spent 33 years, a lot of the years in solitary. He doesn't want to have any issues. He wants to make sure whatever he does is above, you know, ground, above, you know.
And he's in a tight spot, too, because, you know, it's his father. Right. So, you know, you certainly careful what you say about your father.
We are, but we're in the same wavelength.
Yeah.
It's hard for him to forgive and forget, but again, it is his father, so, you know, it'd be easier than it is for me.
Sure.
But we both have the same views.
Sure.
It's just, you know, he doesn't want to have any headaches with the government. They may not be looking forward to hearing from him. But at some point, it's America.
Sure, exactly.
Even though it may not look that way today.
Yeah.
If you want to go into politics, let's do part 2.
Yeah.
But not now.
Yeah,
but,
we touched on politics a little before.
Yeah, there'll be a point where Gregory should be able to tell his story, because it's an American tragedy.
Sure.
You know?
And I just want to close with one thing here. I want to show people the book, and I want to say, as an author myself, Larry does a tremendous job with this book. There's a lot of passion in here, the passion between him and Linda. This is not just a book about
the life. This is also a love story.
Yeah.
And that women, I think, will enjoy as well, in the sense that it's,
yeah.
there's a love,
I mean,
there's a love story
I
there.
get a lot of girls that buy
Yeah.
the book, and
There's a lot of passion.
I sign every book that I send
Yeah.
out, and I get a lot of people on different media places where they show it and they thank me for signing it.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Absolutely. Well, Larry, thanks again. Great time.
We'll see you.